Hello everyone, Mayor Lowe here from City of Sweetwater, and it's my privilege today to be talking to the lawyer for the primary or the Sweetwater City School system, Chuck Cagle, whom I have known for many years. He's well known, or used to be, in Sweetwater. And I was invited to come today to ask questions concerning the Sweetwater City School system taking over the high school system, Sweetwater High School. And that's why I'm here today, because there's a lot of questions that people have, and they have expressed to me, what about this, what about that? And I wanted to come and talk to Chuck today, and Rodney is here too, as well as Patrick Gaines on the school board. And we're just going to brainstorm here a few minutes and try to get some things that you may have questions, and I've got several questions that I want to ask Chuck. I hope he can answer most of them, and maybe there's some, Chuck, that you can't answer because you don't know the answer to right now. So, but being the mayor of Sweetwater, I asked Rodney, I said, do you think we could record this today? And he said, sure, we don't have a problem with that. And I think it would give people a idea of what this is all about. First of all, let me ask you this question. How did this come? I know years ago, it came up several times that the school system, Sweetwater school system, would like to take over the high school system. But it's just a matter of, back then, the economy, money, a lot of questions. But kind of give us a feeling of why this is a good idea, or why do you think it may not be a good idea for the city school system to take over Sweetwater High School?
I think there's, first of all, let me say I'm happy to be at home. It's always good to be back in Sweetwater. Graduated from Sweetwater High School 50 years ago this year, and always look forward to getting back over and seeing the folks and being back over in this part of the world. So it's a pleasure to be here. It is an absolute honor to be the lawyer for the Sweetwater City Schools. I think there's a good school board here, and they have the best interest of students in mind all the time. It's a very well managed school district. It has a good reputation across the state. I'm looking at the list of superintendents all the way back to Ed Daugherty out there. Yep. And remember him when I was in elementary school as the superintendent, all the way through to Rodney Boroff, and there's just a reputation of excellence here. I think that's one of the things that Sweetwater the citizens of Sweetwater, who many of whom have called me in the last few weeks, are interested in is they want to continue that reputation of excellence in their education program, adding a high school to that, which is literally the only county school within 15 or 20 miles of here. It's the only county school in the district. It sits less than 100 yards from the central office of Sweetwater City Schools. That seems to be sort of a crowning jewel for them. But their emphasis is not only that it's located in Sweetwater, that has a lot to do with it. Their emphasis is, we want to make sure that Sweetwater City students continue that level of education excellence when they leave the city system and go to the county system, or the new Sweetwater High School.
Okay, some questions that has been submitted that wanted me to ask and get your opinion on some of these things. So I'm going to jump right into them. If you can answer them, okay. If you are not sure about it, well, you can. Employees' job, does tenure transfer?
Yes.
If this were to happen?
Well, tenure never transfers under the statute. The Sweetwater City Board would have to grant tenure, but that's automatically done. It's teachers transfer from one school system to another, and if this is considered a consolidation, they transfer from one system to another, and whatever rights and benefits they have under the statute, that transfers with them. So the board would take an action under the statute to actually grant them tenure. tenure itself doesn't transfer, but it's by an action of the board. But according to the statute, it has to happen. That board has to, the board has to take that out.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
correct.
Job security, will the Sweetwater High School teachers need to reapply, or will they automatically be rehired under the city school system?
Those who are tenured in the system, certainly those jobs transfer. But given the staffing of the high school and its unique pattern over elementary schools, but where everything is, you've got a teacher who teaches English and one who teaches math. As hard as teachers are to find, number one, that's going to drive this, and the answer is yes. So you're going to have these teachers who will transfer. Plus the fact, if this is a true consolidation into another program, again, that statute drives that, says the teachers transfer in their status. So that would be an automatic thing. I don't know that anybody who will not be offered a job. I can't imagine that would happen, because we need teachers that bad.
Okay, what about the insurance? Monroe County pays employees insurance until Medicare kicks in.
Yes.
Will that hold true under the Sweetwater City School system?
There would have to be an appropriation of funds for that, but yes, that's their intent, is to transfer the teachers with all their retirement and their health insurance benefits right now. That's the intent of the transfer. Would be to transfer them with their benefits in time.
Where would these funds come from?
City Council is the funding body.
Sweetwater City Council.
Yes.
In itself.
So that would be part of the budget proposal from the school board to the City Council to maintain that benefit for teachers who retire, from in between the time they retire after 30, 35 years of service until they reach Medicaid eligibility, that we would pay their health insurance.
So really this, and you know, I'm speaking for the taxpayers too. I've talked to a lot of city mayors, large city, and city mayors and county mayors. And down through the years, one of the things that and going to meetings and sitting in on meetings, the school system is one of the biggest drains on a city budget. Do you think if this consolidation takes place, I've heard and I think, would our taxes double, city taxes double?
I don't have any evidence that it would.
Yeah, but you know they would go up. I mean, due to just what we talked about here, that we would have to fund the insurance, benefits, retirement. That would fall on the city council rather than the school system.
Well, the school system is under the Tennessee Constitution, not a taxing agency, so we have to go to a funding body,
right,
which would be the city council. Taxes are going to go up. I mean, that's inevitable. There are two things. If there ever was anything that is inevitable, there are two things: death and taxes. So taxes are going to go up. Now, is there the possibility that sometime in the future there may be a tax increase? Yes. Is that immediate? No. I don't think there's any evidence to back it up that there's an immediate tax increase.
What happens to the equipment that has been bought by Sweetwater High School, the technological equipment and all of that's been brought under a grant? Would that transfer to the city school system? Would we have to pay for that, or what?
We would try to negotiate for a lot of that stuff. Some of it, the city, if the county has a use for it in other schools, they reserve the right to keep it and transfer it to those other schools. But we would try to negotiate for both the property and the personal property, the equipment, fixtures, things like that, as we negotiate with them to take over the property of the building.
Would Monroe County still receive longevity pay for years of employed?
I don't know. Again, I'm not familiar with the term of longevity pay. Do y'all pay any longevity pay here, Roger?
Non-certified.
Non-certified? That would continue, and then we'd have to extend that to the employees at the high school. I'm not aware of teachers that receive longevity pay. Now that's just a budgetary thing that I'm just not familiar with. But I would imagine there would not be a shift in benefits.
Would the service be forced to retire due to losing benefits such as insurance?
There is no forcing anybody to retire here. That's against the law. No. If we had to maintain the benefits, there would be no forcible retirement.
Will Sweetwater City accept accumulated sick days of teachers at Sweetwater High School?
Yes, we have to do that under the law, that transfer.
Under the law, okay.
Yes, so if you have 240 days of sick leave, that transfers, and that, of course, at the end of time, that sick leave transfers to the retirement system and counts towards state retirement. So it's
okay.
Your sick leave transfers with you.
Will there be a transition year, and what will that look like?
Our anticipated date now would be July 1 of 2026 that we transfer. So we'd use this year to do the planning, and then the next year that we would transfer all the operation of the school. I've done this either 7 or 8 times. The largest transfer that I did, we represented Shelby County schools when Memphis City came in. We merged a 100,000 student system into a 50,000 student system. So it's just the opposite of what's happening here. And once that transfer took place, we had to deal with a consolidated school board. We had to deal with property, everything else. But at that time, that took us exactly 1 year to do, a year of planning. So this is not nearly that scale, and it can be done.
Okay. The city of Sweetwater will they be taking over the maintenance of the school system, kind of like it is now? I mean, we mow and stuff like that.
Yes.
So it will come out of the Monroe County maintenance into the Sweetwater city.
Yes, we would assume operational responsibility for the high school and all the property with it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Will veteran teachers get to keep their leave? This is a double question, I think. Get to keep their leave? Will their insurance, longevity pay, as they now have with the county? I think we answered that a few minutes ago, that it would be.
The statute actually uses an odd word. It says there's no diminution in benefits once a teacher transfers. Once we transfer an operation like this into another school, it would be a consolidation. That's right. No diminution in benefits. That's that.
That's a lawyer word, right?
That's right. It's really nice to even remember that that's there.
Will there be a written contract or memorandum of understanding, a MOU, with certain assurances for veteran teachers and teachers with tenure? I guess we answered that a few minutes ago. It's law. You can't, if they tenure under Sweetwater High School, they would tenure under Sweetwater City School system.
Yes.
Okay. Will the city buy all of the inventory from Sweetwater High School, such as equipment, shops, books, that presently Sweetwater High School has? Does the inventory come with the purchase?
Well, this is worth a little bit of explaining. Sweetwater taxpayers have contributed to the upkeep of this high school ever since it came into existence. At one time, Sweetwater generated the largest share of property tax in the county. So we have paid property tax. So we've paid property tax for education for all these years. That can't be discounted. The building of the building, the building of the round gym, the upkeep all these years, other than something that they may have gotten through some federal grant or something like that, Sweetwater taxpayers have been heavy contributors to that. Not only that, Sweetwater businesses and individuals have built the athletic facilities over there. So we don't want to discount what Sweetwater's already put into this. And they've paid for textbooks, they paid their share of textbook costs, they paid their share of equipment costs. It's not like suddenly we're trying to purchase an asset in which we have no contribution. We have made a contribution, And that's what we're going to emphasize to the county, is we've made a contribution all along toward the upkeep of the school. Some of our citizens in Sweetwater have made a very large personal contribution in facilities over there. So yes, we'll have to assume that we're going to get the books, we're going to get the equipment, we're going to get everything else, unless it's tied to some specific purpose under a federal grant. But the rest of that's going to transfer with us.
Are there a dollar price been set yet for the purchase of high school?
No.
Not. So we're probably, the latest figure I had, what the appraisal value was 8 million, something like that, Rodney?
Yeah, 6.8 or
6.8.
Something like
Yeah. It was the appraisal. All right, well, let's say that you buy it at 6.8. Where does that 6.8 million come from?
Well, if they want to charge a fee, then we would have to sit down with city council and others to figure out how we pay that fee. Is our contention, again, and I think a good case can be made, the Sweetwater taxpayers have paid for that school, and for lots of other,
So you're saying if they had a heart, they'd give it to us.
Well, you know, I think if they have a good business mind, they may want to give it to us, because they're into liability over there too. It's, as long as that school exists, they're going to have to buy textbooks and equipment and keep the building up and do replace a roof that needs to be replaced.
$1 million, I hear,
Yeah.
over, it's coming up.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
That's right.
What about the first district school board members that's been elected to represent the Sweetwater High School commissioners that's been elected? Will they transfer to the Sweetwater City School system, or is their job gone?
Well, it's one of 3 or 4 different ways. They will not automatically come on to the Sweetwater City School Board. You'd have to change your city charter to do that. So it's that's not automatic. It's not automatic that they roll off of the county school board, because the taxpayers here are still paying county education tax. So they might need some representation on the school board. Now in Shelby County, which was a very different circumstance, we do have a 6th Circuit Court of Appeals case that says the school board can be representative of the district that it actually serves, the area that it actually serves. In that case, however, Memphis City was electing all the county school board members because of the population. And the 6th Circuit said that the school board members could be elected from the district that the school board actually serves. This is a very different circumstance here. And it would not be unusual, as it is in Williamson County. We have a school board member that represents the city of Franklin. Well, Franklin Special School District that's right in the middle of Franklin, Tennessee. But they still have a board member from there. So it's not unusual to have school board members sit on a county board of education where there's a city board sitting right in the middle of the county.
So it wouldn't be likely that those commissioners for the first district would automatically come to the city school board.
Nothing's automatic there, but yes, that's correct.
I've had several calls. Of course, this is beginning to, perk back up and being talked about and things like that, of maybe having a referendum, let the voters to decide whether the citizens of Sweetwater, or maybe even the first district, both would want the Sweetwater High School to go into the city school system. Would that not be one of the best ways to do this, as a city school system, county school system? Let the people decide?
Well, that's what people have elected leaders for. Tennessee has a law, and several attorney generals' opinions of the attorney general that state that you can't have an advisory referendum in Tennessee. So a referendum has to be binding. Once the referendum is taken, then it happens. So you can't have an advisory referendum. And the way the Tennessee Constitution is written and the way the laws are written, that's what we depend on elected representatives to do, is to make those decisions.
So this would come with the agreement, okay, Sweetwater City School, Monroe County School System come together and say, look, let's let the people decide, let's have a referendum, then it could be put on to a referendum. If both sides decide, let the voters decide. Is that what you're saying?
If you go to a referendum, if you were to go to a referendum, it would have to be with the understanding that at the end of the day, if that referendum passes, it's binding.
Yeah.
It's binding. It's going to happen. So
one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you explain to people that may be watching this, or people that has called and inquired about this, what is the benefit of the city school system taking over the high school? What benefit would it be for us as the citizens of Sweetwater?
I look at all kinds of school systems in the state, from the smallest, I represent the smallest school district in the state to among the largest. Represented Shelby County at one time when they did the consolidation that created the 17th largest school district in America. When they consolidated those schools over there, there's something to be said for continuity of service, both in educators and in education policy. And in education policy, when students leave one school district and one school board that's governed by a school board and go to another district that's headed by another school board, there are changes in policy, there could be changes in attitude, there are changes in emphasis. And for me, what's best about this is I think it's good for us, for those students to be under a school board all through their academic career, and get that continuity in policy, that continuity of emphasis, the continuity of funding, of emphasis and funding. And that and let's face it, Sweetwater, the city of Sweetwater is home to Sweetwater High School. You'd be surprised at the number of folks out there who don't know that Sweetwater High School is a county school. Just on the base of it, they just don't know that.
But the thing about it, it goes back to this, to being able to fund it. We've got a tax base that is, I guess, medium, but I just hate to see our taxes double on us, particularly the older people and people on fixed incomes. And you already made the statement, taxes will go up. It's inevitable. They may not this year or next year. And I am looking out, first of all, it really don't make a lot of difference to me. I'm out of school. I'll never go back again, but my grandkids will, and my great grandkids will. And I want them to have the best quality education they can possibly get. And I want it to be and I think a lot of people are like this, I want it to be to where we can afford a good school system without going in debt. And I refer back to Tim Burgess told me that if it wasn't for the funding the school systems in Knoxville, they'd be rolling in money. But the school systems keep them drained. Teachers pay, maintenance, you know the story, benefits, things like that. And that's what concerns me as the mayor of Sweetwater is it going to be a burden on the taxpayers to have Sweetwater High School in the city school system? And that's my concern.
I don't think there's any scenario out there that anybody's run, any reliable scenario that anybody's run that says that this is going to cost the city a lot of money. And I've looked at a lot of funding. What other enterprise and you're a businessman, what other enterprise do you pick up as when you pick up Sweetwater High School that automatically almost 70% of your funding is going to be paid for by somebody else? Almost 70% of it. So, and Mr. Mayor, I'm going to be very candid about it. I've been in the education business for 40 years. If you think education's expensive, try ignorance. You know, we have to educate this group of children. We have to make sure their education is the best it can be, or we are going to face a society where lots of these kids are gonna get left out. I mean, education changes faster than Rodney and everybody else can keep up with. It literally is, every time the legislature meets, just take the invention of AI, artificial intelligence. It's driving us crazy. And we're going to have a hard time keeping up with that regardless of who's in charge of the education enterprise. So I am all in favor of doing whatever it takes to make sure that the children of Sweetwater, Tennessee and all 147 districts in this state get the best education they can get. And I'm not going to back off. As lawyers say, that is a point from which I will not recede.
Well, I agree on education. There's no. One other question somebody asked me, how do students that live outside the city school system, like in the first district,
yes,
where does their funding come from for those kids that live outside the city schools? Where does that funding come from? Who picks up the tab on that?
The state funding follows the child. That's the way TISA funding operates in Tennessee, is that whatever the state appropriation is per child, plus all of the add-ons as the, you know, if they're disabled or whatever, there's some extra money that can be picked up there. The state money always follows the child. If they want to move in from out of the district to come to Sweetwater City Schools, we have a brand new Attorney General's opinion in Tennessee that says you folks can charge that out of district tuition if you'd like to do that. So whatever the city appropriates beyond that, which is not maintenance of effort, it's just an appropriation, you're allowed to set a tuition if you'd like to do that and charge that tuition.
One other question, then we'll stop. I think it's been very good. Where does the money, like they agree, Monroe County School Board agrees to sell Sweetwater High School for $6.8 million, whatever it is. Does the city school system have that money set aside if they have to pay that to get the high school? Is the money set aside? Would we have to borrow it? Would it come from the city to subsidize that? Where would that initial payment, if they come back and say, you can have Sweetwater High School, Rodney, you and the board for $7 million, write us a check. Where's that money come from?
Well, if the city school system does have a fund balance, they're allowed to use some or all that fund balance if they want to use that for the purchase of the school. I would be very surprised if they came back at that rate, but let's use your example. Okay. If they were to do that, then I would imagine that there would be some transfer of funds out of fund balance, which is required. The city school system is required to keep a fund balance based on state law. That part of state law has never gone away, and we have to get the permission of the Commissioner of Education to spend that kind of money out of that fund balance. So there would be some payment there. Then we would go to the funding body and say, are we interested in this deal? Because if funding is what keeps us apart in this, then that's when we go to City Council and say, do you want to spend some of your fund balance if you have it? Do you want to go for bonded indebtedness if you have it? So that's where that would come from. Okay. But the school system is not a taxing entity. We are under Article 11, Section 12 of the Constitution. We can't raise a tax. We come to you for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure, Chuck. Good to see you.
Always good to see you.
I tell you, I think you answered a lot of questions, and we know we got some questions answered, so we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Rodney, and our photographer over there, Patrick. Thank you very much. And so I think this has been very informative. I think a lot of questions have been answered here today, and I hope you got something out of it. Mayor Lowe saying bye for now.
Good to see you.